What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Ringside Bets Podcast. I'm your host, PJ Garris, and what a fight we have this weekend. UFC 280, Olivera versus Makhachev in Abu Dhabi. The fights are to start at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's for the main card. So let's get into it. Let's get to the top of the card. Charles Olivera versus Islam Makhachev. Charles comes in at a plus 138 underdog to Islam Makhachev's minus 178 favorite. Charles obviously coming off of a win with Justin Gaethje, but he had to vacate his title because of a weight discrepancy issue. He came in about a pound overweight for that. And Islam Makhachev coming off of a win over Bobby Green back in February 26 at Fight Night. So I'm honestly going to ride with Charles Olivera in this one. I do think he gets the job done. I'm not sure where it's going to be, but his stand-up game is, I think, levels above Islam Makhachev. Islam obviously has the massive pressure that he's able to put on people, as well as, that Sambo game that he has where he's able to pick you up, drop you down at will, and hold you there. I do think Charles possesses a threat, obviously, if Islam's able to take him down, so I do think Charles gets the win. So I'm going to lock in the underdog in that fight, Charles Olivera. Next, we have Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw. Aljo comes in at a minus 184 favorite to TJ's plus 142 underdog status. Aljo coming off of his win, exacting his revenge against Peter Yan, April 9th at UFC 273. Obviously, that body triangle, he was able to pick Peter Yan up and slam him down, get him into a position that he didn't like, and held him there. TJ Dillashaw, his last win came over Corey Sandhagen back in 2021 on July 24th at Fight Night. TJ is going to be coming off of an injury in that fight against Corey Sandhagen. He actually suffered several ligament tears in his left knee, so he's going to be coming back from injury. A little bit of ring rust, not fighting in almost a year and a half. I'm actually going to ride with Aljamain Sterling in this fight. I do think it's going to be a very competitive fight. It's going to be a little bit like chess. It might be a little bit of a slower pace fight. But I do think Aljamain Sterling will be able to do exactly what he did against Yan, which, he's going to be able to pick up TJ, kind of get him down on the ground, hold him there, look for a submission. If he's not able to get one, I do think this one goes to decision. So I got Aljo in that fight by decision. Probably the most anticipated fight besides the main event on this card, O'Malley versus Yan. The Sugar Show comes in at a plus 223 underdog. His last fight was a draw against Pedro Munoz at UFC 276. Obviously, that ended in a doctor stoppage. Pedro Munoz ended up getting what seemed like it was a knuckle, but it could have been a finger in the eye. And couldn't continue the fight, so that came out to be a draw. Yan, his last fight was that loss to Aljo at UFC 273. To be honest, this is one of those fights where I am going to pick the underdog. I have Sugar Sean O'Malley winning by decision. I do think Yan possesses a threat to O'Malley, obviously. Yan is probably, besides Aljamain Sterling, I do think he's got that one in his name for a reason. He's probably the scariest bantamweight in the division. He possesses a crazy amount of striking damage, and on top of that, his combinations are insane. He also has that threat of the wrestling where he's able to pick you up and slam you. But I do think Malley's going to pick Yan apart from the outside. I think he's going to be able to hit him at range, control that distance, and kind of just escape away with a decision win over Peter Yan. I do think that it's going to be a very interesting fight to see how Yan's able to kind of get inside that long range, and it's going to be the most interesting because this is the first test that we've seen O'Malley have in the top 5. It's going to be either a wake-up call for O'Malley or the hype train's going to get even bigger if he's able to knock off a big name like Peter Yan. I do think O'Malley gets the title shot after this win, but I'm riding with the underdog here. Sugar Sean O'Malley at plus 223. Next, we have Beneil Dariush versus Mateusz Gamrot. Beneil coming in at the underdog at plus 164 to Mateusz's minus 215. Beneil's last fight was a win over Tony Ferguson at UFC 262. He's been injured and out for some time. He broke his fibula back in February during his training camp to fight Islam Makhachev, so he's coming off of a little bit of a longer layoff for him. Mateusz Gamrot's last win came over Arman in June. Obviously, the more fresh fighter coming into this fight. I do think Gamrot has the skill set to beat Beneil Dariush. He's also 21-1. So there's, I do think Gamrot is able to, strike with Beneil, and if he's able to get on the ground, I think he can hold himself down, hold himself up there, and I think Gamrot wins by decision. In round 3. Last fight, probably the hardest names to pronounce on this fight card. We have Manon Fiorot versus Katlyn Chookagian. Katlin's last fight came against Amanda Ribas back in May. She won that fight. She's the underdog at plus 175 versus Manon's minus 215 favorite. Her last fight was a win over Maya back in March. This fight actually got canceled a couple different times, so it'll be an interesting fight for them to kind of get back in there and see, two of the top females in that division fight each other. I'm going to ride with the underdog in this fight. I think Katlyn possesses the skill set to hold Manon off, and obviously that win against Ribas was very eye-opening. You got to see, Katlyn's skill set. On top of that, she's held strong in that top 5. She's kind of been a gatekeeper a little bit, but I think if she can get this done, she gets a title opportunity. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. But thank you guys very much for joining me. This is my first podcast back in a very long time. I hope to get back into it. So those are your picks for UFC 280. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.